Look, don't leave it anymore. What's up with it? What's going on?
What's up, everybody? We're back. Another episode of the Fire Session Podcast, episode 21, all in my mind. Now, I know when y'all saw that, y'all was like, what are they up to this week? Well, y'all see we got two very beautiful guests with us. And no, we're not here because they have beautiful faces. We're here because they know some amazing stuff. That's what we're talking about all in our mind today. You know, of course, I got my guy, the man, the brand, Benji Banks. What's up, my guy?
I'm here. You know how it is. Trying to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. I got my bubble gum in my mouth tonight. You know, don't want that white stuff accumulating on the side of your mouth tonight. You know what I'm saying? That's nasty. We don't want
and as I stated before, we have two wonderful guests with us. We have Miss Angel Adams and we have Lauren Pierre. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
So awesome. Me and Benji were talking, and Benji comes with these ideas a lot of the times. And he said, you know what, I know two amazing ladies that I would like to interview, and we would like to talk to them. And they kind of revolve around the same wheelhouse per se. So Benji came with the idea. He was like, well, wait a minute, let's have them both on the same show. And we can talk about some things because they're kind of different personalities, but I think it'll all bring it all together. And I was like, you know what? Sounds like a great idea, my brother. And as y'all know, Benji's family, Benji's my actual cousin. So, you know, I allow Benji to, you know what I'm saying, to run the show a little bit. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm
the short person of all of this. So, you know what I'm saying? I get the slack and the flack and all of that kind of stuff. So I just let him host, you know what I'm saying? I'm shorter, but you know.
Benji's the oldest, but I'm the tallest.
It's just a complete contrast. It's weird in its way, but it works. I mean, we work with it.
Yes, indeed. So, ladies, before we get going with the conversation, we just want to give our audience an opportunity to know who you are. We see these amazing letters behind your name, and I will be honest with you, I don't know what any of that means, and I'm pretty sure my audience doesn't. So I guess we can start with Miss Adams, since her name is Angel Adams and it starts alphabetically with an A. So we'll start there. Miss Adams.
First reports.
Yep. Tell well, you used to it. So tell us about yourself and tell us about your educational background and about those fine letters behind your name.
Okay. So it's really simple. I just got a master's of science in nursing. And with that, I'm able to specialize in psychiatric and mental health care. So that's what I do. I basically treat people with mental health conditions.
Okay, so when you say mental health conditions, like we're gonna have to dive into that because that's broad. It's very broad, and I think a lot of people, you know, especially in the past few years, we've heard that word mental health. We've heard it everywhere, a lot more than we've ever have in our lifetime, and I think it's taken on a lot of different variations. And we need to, I guess, get in there and dig in a little bit so people can have an understanding of what that all entails. Because, we just think when you say mental health, you mean, oh, he crazy? No, that's not.
That's really a misconception, but that does include crazy. But most of the times, not. It's just really diagnosable type things, such as, you know, depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD, These are like things everybody's heard of, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And so it goes on from there. Personality disorders, which basically means you're kind of born with some type of disorder that kind of makes your personality a little different, whether you're a psychopath or someone that's really clingy and things like that.
Ooh, so. Yeah, you said a mouthful there. We're gonna dive into some of that because we need to know who we're dealing with out here. I need to be able to pinpoint some of these Negroes.
I know. It's real.
Right.
But my whole thing mostly is to diagnose people, and I prescribe medications to treat the symptoms. So, and I also provide therapy for patients that want it. I can do that under my scope of practice. So I do that too.
Awesome.
Okay. Lauren Pierre, talk to us. Tell us about your lovely background.
Rigorous.
You can't do
knows what that means. Totally.
Reference. So forgive me for coughing. That's what Benji's over here clowning me about. But I am recovering, so I'm going to be coughing. You all forgive me about that. But I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia, and I have additional specialties in substance abuse, as well as an additional specialty in trauma. And I am also certified to supervise other license-seeking professionals.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. We got some heavy hitters on today, Ken. We're gonna have to come with it.
Yeah, I mean, I got some good questions from some people. I asked people to, kind of give me some questions and want to tune in and to ask them themselves. But, of course, with this type of thing, a lot of people kind of shy away from, letting people know the issues that they have, especially in front of a broad crowd. So they just gave me the question and said, here, Ken, you ask, and then we'll go from there. So whatever I can do to help people, I'm willing to do that. So I said, okay, feed them to me, and then we'll ask the ladies, to try to help some people out. But of course, as we say all the time, these ladies do get paid for this,
right?
So we're not going to dig too deep. You still can reach out to these ladies, and they're going to give you their information to get the real deal. Tonight is just
reach in your pocketbook and spend some money on your mental health. All right.
Yes, a little sample. You can reach out to these ladies and set up your sessions to get, to get everything lined up in your life, because, a lot of us need it. And I say us, me included, a lot of us need this help. So
yeah,
let's get right to it. I'm going to ask you this. This is, always kind of like my first question. What drew you into this profession? What had you always wanted to do this at, when you were growing up, or did it just something that just happened by happenstance? Like, which one of you ladies would like to go first? Either one. Talk to us about what drew you into the profession.
Okay, I'll go ahead and answer it.
Yeah, Angel, you letter A.
But it was kind of happenstance. I mean, I knew I was going to be a nurse amongst being a journalist as well. But I did not know that I was going to specialize in psych or mental health. As a matter of fact, when I took the classes, I was like, not interested. But the first job that I got as a nurse was psych related. It was more elderly people that had intellectual issues, and they were in a daycare, like, basically go there during the day while, their kids are maybe out working, then they go home. And it just, from there, I always got psych jobs. And then I went back to school to ramp up my education, and then started my own business, and I'm just still here with it.
So okay, awesome.
Dope. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Miss Pierre.
So I had an inclination in high school that I wanted to do this. And it was the most basic layman's thought that a teenager has. Oh, I like talking to people, and I feel like I give good advice. Like, I could turn this into a career. That's very basic. Right. People think therapy is advice. It's not advice giving. I want to go ahead and put that out there now. So going into college, the only career that I associated with therapy was a psychiatrist. So going into college, I was psych pre-med. I had just reconciled that I was going to have to go to medical school. Well, I learned very quickly that math and science is not my spiritual gift. And Vanderbilt made that very clear the first semester. So after flunking all of my pre-med classes, I went to summer school to clean all of that up. But the academic advisor explained to me, you don't have to go to medical school. Let's talk about why you're interested in this work. And they were just like, well, you can still just focus on a major in psychology and still practice therapy. I had no idea. I was like, oh, I thought I had to prescribe medicine. And they were like, no, you don't have to do that. So after undergrad, I went to graduate school because you can't do anything in mental health with a bachelor's degree. Let me just make that very clear. So I went to graduate school to get my master's in professional counseling because once again, I was sharing with the academic counselors what I wanted to do. And they just said, look, you would be a perfect professional counselor. You'll be able to practice therapy in office. That's what I did. I've been doing that ever since, got fully licensed, picked up some additional certs, and I've been running with that since.
Awesome. One of the questions I wanted to ask, and I'll address this to Angel, what does a person, if a person feels that they are unwell, how do they reach out, or how does a person, because you know how we are sometimes. We're skittish, we're skeptical, we're all of those things when we run them down the whole list. How does a person get to the place to where they can come to you or anyone else because they feel unwell? They got the feeling, but we know tons of us may have the feeling, but we don't go out. How would you describe that effort to get someone to do that?
Well, that's the great thing about social media now. Like when I was growing up, it wasn't really just social media heavy like that. Right. So now it is super simple. I mean, there's text lines for people that aren't feeling well mentally. There's certain websites that host a bunch of therapists, bunch of nurse practitioners, psychiatrists that you can look up, read their profiles, and like, oh, they do LPG, whatever, TQ, whatever,
right,
or whatever, all this stuff, or they specialize in this or that, and find someone that you think can tailor to you. If it's not a good fit for you, there's thousands and thousands of other options. So yeah, it's really that simple. It is very simple. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lauren, same question. I'm unwell. I don't really, I ain't really feeling this. I'm feeling something, but how does a client reach out to you or reach out to anyone?
First of all, I love the fact that you said unwell because it destigmatizes what people might be experiencing.
Is the normal word usually, is it crazy or something along the lines of that?
I think, unfortunately, people associate mental illness as solely just being crazy.
Yes, that's very.
And it's not really fair to that large group of society who is not crazy. They're just not managing life as well as they would like. So they need somebody to talk to as well. So I absolutely agree with Angel. Social media has changed the game big time because you can go on TikTok or Instagram and see a lot of therapists are promoting themselves. Yeah. And if you connect with somebody's content, their contact information is right there on the page. Right. Now, if you're more old school like I am, because social media is just not my niche, I'm trying to get better at that. But Angel mentioned these platforms where you can find therapists. And some of these platforms or directories are just a Google search away. Mm-hmm. So if you are a person of color, there's a directory called Clinicians of Color in Private Practice. And you can find someone that's African American, Latin American, Asian American, Native American. It's this entire directory of clinicians of color. If you are a Black woman that wants to work with a Black woman, there's a directory called Therapy for Black Girls. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a directory called, and this is the classic one that I think birthed a lot of the other ones, Psychology Today. Okay. Psychology Today is a good directory. You can find anybody you want of any race and ethnicity. But if you are wanting to talk to someone and you have not connected with someone on social media, try one of these directories that Angel was mentioning. And I promise you, you're going to look at a picture, you're going to read a bio. A lot of them will have a website, and you're going to find somebody that you can connect with. But you have to treat it the same way you would a good hairstylist or barber.
Right.
It might not be.
I think that's important. That's very important.
It might not be the best fit the first time, but don't give up on it just because it wasn't the best fit the first time. Try someone else, and then try someone else. Take recommendations or suggestions from people who have a mental health professional. That will help tremendously.
I like that idea that you said, getting rid of the idea crazy. And that, I think, is what makes a lot of people actually fearful, that I'm going to go into a situation or a therapist and they're going to view me as crazy, whatever it may be, within our own heads. Because remember, if I'm already, or so-and-so is already unwell, obviously the thoughts aren't processing properly like we would want them to, right? So getting them over that fear, and I think telling them, you know what, you ain't crazy. You just need some guidance. You just need some help. You're unwell, but we can help you. We can get you well. I think that is a great way to put it out there.
And I want to add this right quick while we're here, because you mentioned TikTok and you mentioned the amount of people on TikTok that are certified, but I must add that there are a lot of people who are not certified on TikTok and these social media platforms, and some of those people have rather large followings and they're giving people advice. So people, I would warn you to do your due diligence and do your background checking, your research, and make sure these people are properly vetted before you go off and follow all of their mantras, all of the things that they're telling you, because some of these people, they're not about helping you. They're about getting the followers up. They're not about what they should be. So I'm not discrediting anybody, but I'm just saying, just like they were just saying, do your homework, do your Googles, do your research, and make sure that these people that you go to and confide in and talk with are really who they say they are, because that's you're putting something very valuable in their hands.
Right. Lauren mentioned to treat it like your favorite hairstylist. You wouldn't just go to any hairstylist. You're not just going to let anyone in your hair. Am I right, ladies? Like, you're going to be super, particular about that. So I like that idea, that treat it like your barber. Guys, we don't go to a barber if he can't cut. If he going to have my hairline pushed back like LeBron and he got to use that stuff on the top of his head, we're not pulling up. We're going to be hotter than fish grease. We ain't going to do it. So take these ladies' advice and treat it like you would treat something you love. And you should love yourself, is what I would say. I would put out there.
And I think that if
go ahead.
is unsure about, I guess, the qualifications, that's not the word I want to use. Both Angel and I have to have licenses. And Angel, I apologize if I'm misspeaking, but you can definitely speak to this point too. For any licensed professional counselor in any state, you have to have a license that's under that Secretary of State. So for Georgia, for example, if you want to go just to make sure my license is active and to make sure that I am not under any kind of prosecution or anything like that, all you have to do is go to the Secretary of State's website and put in my name, and it will show you my license number and the day that it became active and when it expires.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
You can do that with a lot of these mental health professionals. And I tell people all the time, almost all the professions where you're providing a service to people, you have to have a license for. So we mentioned stylists and barbers. You have to have a license to do that.
You do.
Medical professionals have to have a license, and we have to maintain that license with continuing education every few years. So if your chosen mental health professional is not licensed, that can be very dangerous.
I agree.
Okay. So I got one question. Let's go back to the social media aspect again, because that's a big part of our lives, right? So I know that you all, for the most part, kind of has spent the crux of your profession in the social media era, because it's let's be honest, like, you really got to think about it. Like, this social media thing started like 2006, 2007-ish. That's when it took off. That's a long time ago right now. So, so my thing is, can you speak to the effect of social media on people's mental health, the good and the bad of it? Because I know that's a huge part of a lot of people's lives, and it affects their mental health, and a lot of people don't even know it.
Oh yeah. I can definitely speak on it, especially from my young population of patients. The suicide rates are going up. That has been directly traced to social media. A lot of bullying, a lot of I want to be liked, I want to be loved, I need the likes, acceptance, and things that the child's brain, it's still developing. It's very fragile. So to be experiencing those type of things, and I mean, to me, it's basically trauma. It's just a mental trauma that can happen over and over again. It's ruining our children and adults.
Right.
So in that aspect, it's really, I hate it. I mean, I'm on social media, but I feel like I got drugged into it. Like
it's part of the culture. It's part of it nowadays. So
it's like, I mean, either get with it or get lost type situation, but I have boundaries. And so I know that I'm a grown woman. So that's the bad part, but we've already spoken on the good parts, how accessible it is to be able to find professionals or anything you need to help you and what it is. So,
Yeah. I always equate the social media effect. We had a conversation. I have kids that are range from 21 to an 11-year-old. So I'm looking at, okay, we never had to deal with a bully on social media, right? Because if we had to deal with a bully, we dealt with him at school. When we left school, we left the bully.
Yeah, we got the hands, or they didn't.
Yeah,
they leave the bully physically, but they go home and they got social media, so the bullies can follow them to social media, and these kids never get away from it. So like, never get a break from it. So that's the other thing that I think a lot of people don't look at when we're talking to our children about the effects of social media and, what social media can do and what social media is meant for. They don't understand that because they see it from a totally different light. Because for my 11-year-old, she's known social media her whole life because it's been in existence her whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's totally different. So Lauren, talk to us about that, from your standpoint, the effects of social media on the mental health.
Well, I agree with Angel in terms of the impact that it's had on youth and adolescents, because there's definitely, I would say professionally, there's an increase in disorders related to depression and anxiety a lot because of social media. And I absolutely agree with her when she said it's a trauma. It definitely is a trauma. There are a lot of things in life that are traumas, and there have been studies that have shown that the average adult, at least 60% of adults, have experienced at least one childhood trauma. Okay. So if you're talking about experiencing that kind of trauma where I can't remove myself from the trigger because then I see it on my phone and on my laptop, then it's increasing depression, it's increasing anxiety, and it can create acute stress disorder, it can create PTSD. And I think we're a very reactive culture, right? So we don't really know how to prepare for things until they happen. Right. So, at the growth of social media, so did grow mental illness. But then as a result, now therapy and mental health advocates have to now adjust to that. It's like, okay, social media is creating a lot of new issues that we're seeing in the office. We have to now penetrate that atmosphere in some way to kind of like balance what these young people are experiencing. And over the last decade or so, that's when you saw the creation of more apps for mental health, more texting numbers to talk to somebody, because you have to meet these kids where they are. And where they are is on social media. And social media happens to be the thing that's actually exacerbating the mental illness. So you got to have the TikTokers and the Instagrammers. And I'm still old school. Facebook is my judge. But you still need to have that coming up in your timeline so you can see these options, because that's where they are and that's where they connect with people.
So let's, hearing that depression, that anxiety, talk to us a little bit about the causes of depression, anxiety. Some people have anxiety disorders. Some people I don't know what percentage of the population have agreed or took something to say that they are depressed, but talk to us about some of the causes of depression, anxiety. Lauren, you start there, and then we'll go with Angel.
Well, I don't want to get too technical with you guys, but there are so many DSM codes related to depression. People just know the word depression, but they don't understand there are so many different types of depression. And just to name a quick couple, there's major depressive disorder, there's persistent depressive disorder, there's bipolar depression. There are all these different types of depression. And Angel, working in the medical field, can probably describe more of the chemical influence, but I always like to think when it comes to mental illness, there's an internal impact, there's an external impact. And the internal impacts are often the things that are related to our genetics or hereditary predispositions that we really have no control over. And sometimes they present themselves at certain stages of life where there's no real external catalyst that's really causing it, but it's more chemical. But then you have people who there are external catalysts that are actually triggering that. There are life stressors that we haven't figured out how to manage well. There is grief that we might be dealing with. Let's go back to PTSD. There's trauma. All of that stuff could be external and it's affecting our mental health. But then there could be things that are genetic that are also affecting that as well. And you could fall into either one of those.
Right. Angel, talk to us about that, because I know you specialize in the psychosis, the anxiety, and the depression. So talk to us a little bit about that. Some of those causes, that are they health related? Is there anything in there? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's pretty much summed up in 3 categories. It's biological, psychological, and or environmental. So just like Lauren said, you could be born with it, chemical imbalance. You have 2 bipolar parents, the chances of you getting bipolar, is a lot higher than someone who doesn't. Psychological, what you're experiencing, traumas and things like that, or just straight up environmental. It could either be what you're putting in your body. Has that changed the chemical balance of things? So it's never really a one thing that any profession can say, this is it,
Right.
So it's
at least getting a diagnosis, so to speak. Do you think most people know that they have this issue, or they have an issue, they're unwell, and they're just afraid? Or what would you say? They just, I don't care. We've never had to do this before. Why do I have to do that? Do you think most people operate like that? Because then I'm thinking I'd be less, I'd have maybe less of an urge to maybe tell a friend or a loved one to go see a therapist, to go see one. Do you believe that or no?
So I would love to address this, Angel. I apologize if you're about to say
no,
something.
Go ahead.
There's a trend I noticed when I was in private practice that it's very generational. So young people, and I don't do Gen X, Gen Z, I don't know all that stuff. I don't know what the years are for that. But young people who are high school age and college age into the 20s right now, therapy has become far more trendy in this age group. So they talk a lot more about depression. They talk a lot more about anxiety. So they are far more ready and interested in therapy. And oftentimes they are misdiagnosing themselves. So when I was in private practice, I'm getting teenagers who are coming to me who are telling me they have depression. I'm just like, okay, when were you diagnosed? They were never diagnosed. They were never assessed. They just have these things they feel. And it sounds like my friend Kim, and Kim is getting medication because she has depression. And I think I have the same thing. So there's far more conversation in this younger generation. They're far more open to therapy and exploring what their symptoms are. If you move a little bit into 30s and 40s, what I have seen in my career is, and I can attest to this, we have been taught how to survive with so many symptoms, and we've been taught how to keep going, even in the face of a lot of these things, that we don't recognize them as pathological. We don't recognize them as maybe being a little disorder, because we've had to create so many survival tactics. We've had to create so many coping skills to carry them, to carry them with us, not realizing, oh, you actually have a DSM diagnosis, and we could have been treating this a long time ago, but you didn't realize it because that's not how you identified what was going on with you. And there was a trend a couple of years ago, and I can't remember if it was a meme or what, but it was helping Black women especially understand that a lot of what they were using to define strength was actually either a trauma response or it was another way to look at depression without even realizing it.
Wow. So I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I think over time we're becoming more educated the more that our community is opening up to therapy, and more people are realizing, oh, this thing that I've been doing is actually me trying to manage a mental illness that I didn't even realize was a mental illness. But wow. I would love to hear Angel's response to that.
Oh, that was awesome. Yes, please, Miss Adams.
Yeah. Tell me the question again.
Let's see. Let me give you the synopsis, the piece of it. People generally, I would think someone would, because we're so much in survival mode, like Lauren mentioned, we're in survival mode all the time. So we don't have the time. We know something's wrong, but we ain't really feeling that. So getting us out of that survival mode and realizing we have this issue, like how do we wrap our minds around that? Because I'm not gonna, if I don't feel comfortable with coming to you, I'm not gonna tell a relative to do the same, to come to you, to talk to you. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So as far as people, I know initially you had said it had came back to me. Do people kind of know they have this issue or they don't? A lot of times it's been happening for so long, they knew something was off. And either someone has kind of mentioned it to them and it gets their brain to going like, do I really have anxiety issues? Am I really OCD? Do I really have to have my bed made up all the time? You know, you kind of start looking at their lives, their daily routine. It's like, okay, yeah. And you know what? This is really kind of getting on people's nerves. This is not the ideal, like acceptable behavior. So that's when I do have a lot of people come in to me when it is somebody else that said something to them. And they just didn't realize that this was what it was exactly.
Right. So you're able to diagnose that depression, that anxiety, so to speak, right?
Yeah, like, you know, I've been laying around for a while, but, you know, I just thought it, you know, I was sad, but like, you know, this has been going on for months, you know, so that's when you kind of get the idea, like, you know, this person's really depressed or, you know, no one wants sunlight in the house. You know, that could be a sign of depression or being happy. And so, because a lot of people can put up that shield and deep down inside. So it just takes a lot of talking to once you do get somebody in to the patient, because you can actually think they have one diagnosis and be that and or something else. So.
Those trauma bonds and just learning to live with survival is, I mean, we're strong, but like Lauren mentioned, sometimes, you know, we need to show some vulnerability. And I know Ken was mentioning that earlier, men not being able to kind of express their vulnerability. That's kind of an iffy thing. So how do you deal with men in this regard? Because I'm wondering, you know, like brothers need to feel comfortable because like, I'm sure for the most part, you probably get called weak out in the streets if you're going to go see a therapist.
Probably.
So I mean, but we want to take those terms off. Like we use trying to call somebody crazy. We're saying unwell. We want to take those stigmas off and allow guys to be able. You know what? I think I might need some help.
Yeah, and I do find that the men, just amongst my peers as well, that practice are more comfortable with females.
Right.
Yeah, way more.
I would agree. My therapist is a female, and
we're just nurturing, and you know,
a lot of us are used to spilling our guts to females. This pillow talk. That's what the old folks call it, pillow talk. When you're laying there, you're just thinking you're in your thoughts and you're just telling everything. But you know, like we were talking about earlier, I think, you know, I talked to a few brothers and we always had that thing where you good, brother? You all right? Just asking another man, are you good? Because I think all too often we just make the assumption that because just like Angel was saying, they wear that smile. Every time we see them, they look well and they're really unwell on the inside. And they're that way because nobody even asked. Nobody even took the time to even check and see, hey man, you good? Because I mean, you know, I can't lie. Growing up, you know, we were taught that, hey man, suck those tears up. You know what I'm saying? Your grandma died. Your grandma died, but she gonna be good. You be a man, you know, and that's and that's terrible, man. You should be able to express that loss that you're experiencing. Somebody should be able to kind of tell you, you know, how to get through it, and it's okay to, you know, to show your emotions, because you know, with my dad, I talked about him all the time. That's my OG. That's my guy. Right. But he was brought up in a different day and time where they didn't hug each other. They didn't do all this, you know, I love you, man. Right. So as a young man, I never got that. I never heard my dad say, I love you. You know what I'm saying? I never got a hug from my dad. So when I had my boys, I was direct opposite. I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm showing them I love them. I'm telling them I love them. I'm hugging them. I'm showing them directly the opposite of what I know, because I felt like it was what I was missing. Right. Because I want them to be, you know, great leaders of the household and the community, wherever they decide to serve. But it's hard because
and King got some great kids, by the way. Excellent kids.
Thank you. And it's hard to teach them that, if, you know, I would say if you're trying to lead, but you're broken yourself. Right. And I think that's one thing. We're trying to lead from a broken place, and that's why we can't be as effective as we should be, because we're broken and we refuse to get fixed. So, you know, if we're unwell and we refuse to get the help, then how can we, you know, help the next generation if we refuse to get that help? But we're telling them to go get it. Kids lead by example. You can tell them one thing, but if you show them, they'll actually do it. So, you know, that's kind of why I was with that idea.
I think there's been more of an effort and push by Black men in general to create more villages and spaces for Black men. And it's not always done with the intention of promoting mental health, but sometimes it's just done in a more casual way. Like, oh, y'all gonna hate me because I cannot remember his name. Is it LeBron who had that barbershop show?
Yeah, barbershop talk. Yeah.
Right. So good example, wasn't designed to intentionally address like mental illness, but you're creating a space for Black men that's just for Black men. Right. The same with the guy, I think his name, did you all see that interview with Michael Beasley?
Yes. I mean, my gosh, man, listening to his story.
It wasn't intended to be about vulnerability and mental health, but that's what it became.
Right.
And that brother felt safe enough to do that in that space with those other Black men. Right. So, you know, there are all these different
and
spaces.
To put it on open for everyone to see it too is another thing as well.
Right. So there are efforts that Black men are making, whether they realize what it's doing or not, but they're trying to create more space for men to connect with men. And that idea that men tend to be more comfortable, and I absolutely agree. In my experience, Black men are more comfortable seeing a Black woman therapist. And in my opinion, and in my professional experience, that goes all the way back to the trauma of Black families and how you've got a whole generation of Black men who their primary caregiver was a woman. And there wasn't a lot of healthy, affectionate modeling from the men that were present. Or you're coming from a generation where you did have a man in your home. But to Ken's point, vulnerability was not a part of the masculine definition. So there's this whole part that's missing from the Black man's experience in terms of how to manage his own mental health and his emotional well-being that men are trying to figure out now. Like, men are in their 50s, still trying to figure out.
In our 40s, our 50s, still trying to figure out mentally how to do certain things, how to maneuver a certain way. That it can be very tough because men, we portray strong and so forth, but it's still tough. Sometimes I don't even want to open up, and it's like you have to. You're paying. You're here. Why would you waste your time? So that kind of gives you the incentive to, you know what, this happened, that happened, that happened. How in the world am I going to deal with this aspect and this idea? And so opening up to that can be very, very, very tricky for a man.
It's a change in thinking, and it's not even just about gender. You're talking about having to completely restructure your belief system, the way that you have believed something for the majority of your life. I mean, that's the essence of CBT, is trying to change, restructure, and reframe core beliefs that have made up who you are. That's hard work.
It is.
That's not easy. That's a lot of hard work. But I think the combination of men being more willing to enter into therapy and Black men creating more spaces for other Black men is going to naturally evolve. It really will.
I would agree.
Yeah.
This is a question I had from one of my friends, and that person asked, how do you, person who has been diagnosed mentally ill, whatever it may be, whatever we want to call it, how do you as a therapist in your profession get that person to, you're telling them what to do in a sense. How do you get them to feel comfortable with their diagnosis? Like they're diagnosed, they got this issue. How do you get because now you got to tell them what to do in essence, right? Angel, how do you get them to let that go? That pride.
Well, I'll say the diagnosis that I have the most trouble with is bipolar.
Okay.
Because bipolar is automatically thought of as being psycho, right? Crazy, throwing chairs. No, it's not that all of the time. It can have depression, of course, and it can have manic episodes where you just might want to go have a bunch of sex, or you might want to go spend a lot of money, or you might want to go steal. It's not necessarily these crazy type impulsive behaviors that I just maybe like Kanye, Kanye's kind of maybe the poster child for bipolar right now.
Right.
But so I've had patients not come back to me anymore after I've told them that. Some that's like, okay, when they come back to me, can you let's reevaluate me? Sure, I'll reevaluate you. But same thing. From what you're telling me, your experiences, you are bipolar. Here are the options, So it's just them gaining trust in me.
Right.
And that's really it. Just building that rapport with my patients that they can trust my expertise.
Right, because I can imagine a person is like, I ain't listening to her. I don't want to hear that. Because again, the stigmatism is that the stigma is this person's crazy. You get what I'm saying? So nobody wants to be officially told that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm sure that comes with some anxiety, right? Like, I'm gonna walk in here and she's gonna tell me I'm crazy. I ain't going in there, man. Forget her.
What? That. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's and the stuff she just said is amazing, because there's a lot of you all out there who know some people who like to steal and who like to have a lot of sex. So they might have a condition, so you might, they might need to get them checked out, because again, that's one of those things in a lot of communities. I don't know about other communities, but I know in ours, it's somebody like to have sex. Okay, we're gonna call them some choice words. Somebody like to steal a little bit, or a lot of bit. We're going to talk about them, but there's an issue. There could be an issue there that's that's triggering that. It's not just because I'm broke, I need to steal a lot. It's something that in them, just pushing them to do that. And they don't know, we put them in jail, right? And we say, okay, well, they steal all the time, but it's a reason behind that's not being addressed. So putting them in jail is not fixing it. They need other help to stop them from doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I would agree. I mean, that's tricky though, because I can imagine, because I had the same anxiety when I first decided I was going to go. And I've been seeing my therapist for at least 2 years now. I felt I needed to go during COVID, because it was like, you're working, you're doing everything, you're handling your business, but you still got some things that you don't want to discuss with just anybody, just any regular old person. And so you get in there, and I have to be honest, because she was cute, because she was pretty, that made me relax a little more. I ain't gonna even lie to you.
Yeah.
Not gonna. So I get it when you guys mentioned earlier that men most of the time are more comfortable with a woman. Being totally honest, when I was looking for one, I wasn't looking for no ogre. I ain't gonna even lie to you. It was like, I mean, that's why I need to change that word, maybe.
Please, you weren't looking for nobody to see.
Yeah, it was like, And I was like, and it was hard. And I happened to find Miss Jackson. So it was totally funny. So it was, her name is Miss Jackson. So it was totally funny. But the first session, and then again, what made me feel comfortable is she actually talked to me without a bias. Mm-hmm. Like you can get people's perspective because of your partner, your homie, you know, your whatever, your pillow talk, whatever. But it was just cutthroat. And I respected that. I don't know how many other people would respect it, but I respect that. So would you guys say for men that that's also something that's a very poignant, that's valid for this?
You mean about not, well, you're talking about the unbiased part?
Yes.
I would think that's the case for most people that go to therapy. They want that objective insight, that objective guidance. I wanted to say something about the labels that you were asking about before the diagnoses. I actually do a lot of work with my clients about not focusing on the diagnosis. And I try to use a lot of intentional language that they can use for themselves. So instead of saying, I'm depressed or I'm bipolar, because that's a label, you're adopting it, that's your total person. That's not totally who you are. Then I try to change that language and say, I'm living with some depressive symptoms, or I have a few bipolar tendencies, or something that allows you to look at it as a group of symptoms versus the definition of who you are. Because I've had some really interesting experiences with people who, once they get a diagnosis, they almost lean into it and decide they kind of want to make that part of their identity. And they grab hold of it in a way where it's just like, okay, would your symptoms have been this intense had you not known? Like now you're kind of leaning into it. You might be doing a lot. And you can have those kind of conversations with clients that you have rapport with. But I try to tell them, just think of it as a group of symptoms. You know, if the doctor told you that you have the flu, they're just going to tell you what medication to take, what treatment to do to help you manage the symptoms of the flu. I'm doing the same thing in therapy. I'm helping you figure out how to manage the symptoms that you're presenting with. Now, are you going to always present with them? Maybe not. But for the time being, let's talk about what to do when you do. When you feel it, when you present that way, you know that it's coming from this thing. And these are the resources and these are the tools and these are the techniques that I'm going to use when this symptomology is present. And I really don't want clients to feel like they have to use that label because it can be very alienating, especially when you're talking about some of the more psychotic diagnoses. You know, it puts people in a really weird space, you know, having to explain those things. So I try to help them find other language instead of like giving themselves this label that identifies everything about you. And that's not really fair to you and to who you
are. I have an issue with something that they do on social media all the time, and it's mostly the ladies. They got this thing called my toxic trait, right? My toxic trait is I got a smart mouth, and my toxic trait is I go off on people. Like, can we talk about that? Because that kind of reminded me of what you were just saying, like where people find this thing where it might be a condition that they're suffering from. But instead of them getting help for it, like they embrace it and it becomes who they are. Right. And you know, that's not that's not healthy. That's
trying to be Joker out here, huh? We just go
it's not healthy.
Whole psychosis. Like I'm crazy. Just
it's not healthy. It's really not, you know, instead of, you know, embracing the bad in it, you know, you should get some help. But I think social media has made it cute to say my toxic trait.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm gonna say something that I want to hear Angel's opinion about that because I think it kind of goes back to that cop out that a lot of people use, like this is just who I am, or you just don't have to accept me for who I am, because what that translates to is I am unwilling to change. I am unwilling.
Say that again. Say that again.
This toxic trait trend, and luckily I haven't seen this, so y'all definitely just educated me about something. It's twofold. It's like I'm trying to normalize this problematic behavior I have so I don't feel so shameful about it. But at the same time, it's so trendy now. I'm not necessarily going to do anything to change it because like I'm connecting with all these other people with this same issue. Okay, again, you're saying this is just who you are, but you're also saying, I'm unwilling to do anything different. I'm unwilling to be anything different.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Angel. My toxic trait. I'm sure you see that often.
You know, I think it's a fad thing, social media thing. But at the same time, at least these individuals are aware. You know, I'm always trying to look at some good things about things. You know, they're aware that obviously it's something that's not too hot, right? So that's a beginning. At least I see that, like, okay, they've identified that this is toxic, you know, for any type of relationship. But yeah, it is a thing to where it's kind of become this shield of honor. And I mean, hopefully it's just something that'll go with the wind here soon, but it's just the cool thing to be the girl with the attitude, or, you know, I don't really know the toxic traits. I don't think the guys are doing it. Are they?
I mean, guys, you know what? First of all, I'm sick of hearing the word toxic, narcissist. Like, I'm so sick of it. It's like, can y'all use some more words in y'all vocabulary? It's like, I'm so sick of hearing it. I'm like, listen, because I think guys use it. I've seen guys use the term. So to me, it instantly is like, you know what? Look, I don't even want to hear you after that. Like, everything's toxic. You put butter on your bread too much. You're toxic.
It's toxic.
It's like, come on, man, brother, like butter. I mean, you using margarine. Like, and it's like everything is associated with toxic now. But it seems like we wear it. People wear it as a badge of honor. Like I am this. I mean, would you agree that you can be that, but not show it all the time? Is that I'm bipolar? It's part of me, but do I have to show it all the time? Like, how does that work?
I mean, with you saying that, it could be just people trying to be unique in a sense. You know, like, I'm gonna stand out if I say I'm bipolar or I'm crazy or something like that. Just, again, it comes back to acceptance and this whole social media thing that's going on. So that's what I think about it.
And also, too, when people find community, there are other people like me out here, or there are other people with this diagnosis. It normalizes it. So to Angel's point, at least you're identifying that you have these symptoms and you have this issue. But then you're so comfortable now in this group and this community, you've just decided, well, this is just how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And and I hate to say this because it sounds a little diminishing in my head, but it's like, you think it's cute, and it's not really cute. It's problematic. And your relationships are going to show you that over time, that this is problematic when you decide not to do anything about it. And again, there's nothing wrong with having community and connecting with other people, because again, it normalizes it. But do something with that information once you get it.
Now that's key. We're trying to get people to be proactive with this, right? I guess that's the ultimate goal. Like, be proactive about it. You know you're unwell. Let's get you some help. And that's why we have both of y'all on. So, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want y'all to hit up your partner in the DMs, all right? Like, and just leave it at that. We got two credible people here who can actually help you, and you can request their services as well.
Have y'all seen those memes or those videos? And I don't know what platform I saw it on, but it says something like, are you one of those girls that says you don't need a therapist because you have your girlfriends? Well, you and your girlfriends need to see a therapist. Have y'all seen that?
I've seen that sounds amazing to me.
I mean, y'all like to pontificate over brunch, so and liquor. So, you know, you're gonna have to talk to us about that. Because is it true that women talk or communicate more than men? Do you guys experience that whether you have a male client or a female client? Do they communicate better than most men, or what would you say about that?
I haven't done enough of the research to give you an educated response to that, and I definitely don't want to generalize either one of the things.
Right. We're getting rid of the terms that we gotta put it in the proper perspective.
I would say everybody's comfortable, at least from my experience. So one doesn't outweigh the other for me. Yeah.
And you know what? If the client is comfortable with the therapist, it will be reflected in how they communicate and how open and how much they talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that makes absolute sense. That makes absolute sense. Because brothers, y'all ain't got to be scared. You know what I'm saying? You ain't crazy. You ain't crazy. You is not crazy. You just, you got anxiety. That's it.
See? Yeah. All right. So with that being said, I kind of want to pivot a little bit and ask this question. Why do you think mental health was reserved and as a conversation in the Black community as just for crazy people for so long? Like, why did that stigma just continue to perpetuate?
Well, I think that was the only thing we could really see.
Right.
Crazy. Like, if there were some people that hallucinated or whatever crazy was, we didn't really know what anxiety looked like or depression or, so crazy was what we could see. I remember growing up in Mississippi, there was a man we called Pee-Pee. He would always just walk down the street and just point and follow people. And we were like, he crazy.
Right.
He had mental health issues, but that's what I mean. Like, you can kind of see crazy.
Right.
So I think that's why it stuck and why it continues to be that way. But it is getting better. So that's a plug.
We're progressing. Because I don't think up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe shorter than that, I don't think the discussion ever came up to talk to a therapist or go to the doctor to, check out your mental and things of that nature. I don't think I've ever heard it before. We were just taught, read your Bible, pray, and smoke some weed if you have to. And get you a drink if you have to. You know what I'm saying?
In that
Or
order.
like you said earlier, some other things. But that's just what we've never had these discussions.
I actually think you mentioned like in the last 3 years, I'm gonna cut us a little bit more slack, us being people of color, primarily African American. I would say in my professional experience, it's been more like the last 10 years, we have been progressively a little bit more open, a little bit more willing. There are more people of color in the field, hence Angel and I on this podcast. And there are more people of color who are interested in doing this work in the community. And our voice has become so necessary because our approach is so unique to being Black. There's so much, let me choose my words in case somebody's monitoring. There's so much cultural.
We don't want you to get in trouble on the platform.
There's so much cultural ignorance and incompetence in the field of mental health. Despite all of the alleged cultural work that's being done, you still have professionals like Angel and I who sometimes have to be the change that other people wish to see. Because this approach that historically has been used to address this issue might not look the same when I'm dealing with someone of color in a socioeconomic class that is not considered upper class. Like it's a very different dynamic. Culturally, the way we think, we speak, everything is just a little bit different. So the more people of color that Black people have been seen in the field has caused them to gravitate more to us. And I feel like I've seen that increase in this last 10 years. And of course, media has a lot to do with it. Like we talked about social media, but the more you see in television and movies, people of color going to therapists, whether it's a comedic context or not, we're still showing it. Like the first thing that came to my mind is Girlfriends. Angel, did you watch Girlfriends?
I did.
So on Girlfriends, both Joan and Tony were going to see a therapist.
Yep.
And it was very normalized.
That's very true.
It was normalized. Now, the therapist was not a woman of color, but it normalized these Black women who, at the time of the show, were in their 30s, I think, going to therapy. And if you fast forward, there's a show on HBO called In Treatment. And I'm so mad I can't remember the actress's name, Isuzu. She was in Orange is the New Black. And I think her character's name was Crazy Eyes. What's that actress's name?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't. I ain't even seen Orange is the New Black. Sorry, I don't watch much TV.
I didn't watch it, but I know who Crazy Eyes is.
But she's on an HBO series called In Treatment where she is the therapist.
Suzanne Warren.
So there are more and more models, more and more images of us, and that attracts more Black people the more they see images of Black people in mental health.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask too, because I was really wanting to know also, how do we as a community get more of us to seek help for as far as mental health wellness checkups and things of that nature? And I think that's a big part of it, seeing somebody who actually looks like you, because I'll say this, when my oldest son graduated from high school, he wanted to go into that field. And I asked him, first question, you ask your child, why do you want to go into that field? And he said, Dad, I don't see a lot of men that look like me in that field. So I feel like there's a space that needs to be fulfilled. And I feel like I can do that. Right. So, for him to see, one of the guys that I played basketball with, he actually, is in the counseling field. So he saw that and he talked to him and it spoke to him as far as that goes. So, I think that's a big part of it, is seeing people who actually look like you, because you're more comfortable going and talking to them, because you feel like you can connect on a different level and you feel more comfortable talking to them.
Right. I would agree.
I'm going to give a quick shout out. There's an organization, there's a group of men in Atlanta, and they call themselves Counseling Brothers of Atlanta. And what they're doing is they're marketing themselves as Black men who are mental health professionals, who are offering mental health services to Black men and to youth, young Black men. Right. And do they see other demographics? Absolutely. But they understand the need for the niche. They understand that this is an entire group that needs to be served. And they are representing that there are healthy men, healthy Black men who can model some of this help for you, who can support you in this process. So quick shout out to Counseling Brothers of Atlanta. And I'm sure there are other groups and organizations like that in other states, other men who have gotten together and said, hey, we see the need. Let's do something about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
And I wanted to bring back something from earlier that I've been hearing too on social media. High functioning depression. Is that a thing? And if so, like, can we talk about that for a second? Because from the meme, you get information from memes. Sometimes our education comes from these memes. And I saw that meme and it spoke to me because it showed all these symptoms. And I'm like, wow, like a lot of us do those same exact things and we just keep going. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We just have been caught in this perpetual cycle of just struggle, but we just keep pushing past it. Now we've learned how to function with this issue. So can we talk about that for a second? Is that even a real thing? How functioning depression?
I think so. You can still do your duties, go to work, social events and things like that. Publicly you're doing everything right. You're doing everything right in the workplace. And when you get home, you fall to pieces. It's just like a high functioning alcoholic.
Right.
You could be ruining your body and ruining relationships, but you're killing it at work. That's what's important to that alcoholic. They're killing at work, but everything else is in shambles. So, I do think that there's some people that can still go throughout, maneuver, and do what they need to do to remain status quo. But really, it's not sustainable. In the end, it's just not sustainable. So
eventually catches up to you. Lauren mentioned something earlier about the survival mode. We just kind of, and Ken mentioned this as well. We get into the survival mode, and then we reach a certain age and realize, what, I can no longer live in survival mode. Like, I actually have to reach out to someone for some help. So getting out of that survival mode, I think it has been hard for a lot of us. What would you say to the person that is focused on getting out of survival mode? They've come to the realization, I got this issue, but I no longer want to live like this anymore. What do you say to that person?
I say to that person, first of all, kudos to you. There is hope. Change is going to always be hard when you've been living your life a certain way for X amount of years. Right. Just like Lauren was saying, the CBT, you're reconstructing your brain to think a certain way. And in survivor mode, it's like adrenaline 24/7.
Right.
You know, so it's like a high stress feeling. Like not only are you mentally tearing yourself down, you are physically tearing your body down.
Right.
You know, if you can imagine just being tense all the time, a lot of people walk around tense, shoulders, don't even know it for years and years. End up getting neck problems, back problems, headaches, things like that. So it's not going to be easy, but it's so many options to decide to change your life for the better for your mental health, you know. So for that person that's finally reached that pinnacle, that is great. That's great news. Everybody might not ride that boat with them,
right?
Because their high stress moments could be another person's win, and that could be why they're continuing to operate in that manner, you know. But when they've decided that enough is enough, I mean, that's it.
Make it happen. Go see Miss Angel Adams. She gonna she gonna take care of you. She gonna make sure you're good.
By the way, I'm like here, so I can only see Texas residents.
Right.
Unfortunately.
I mean, Ken is in Texas, so our show reaches from Texas to Cali. So,
yeah, I know you.
So this is dope. This is why one of the reasons why.
Hold on. I'm from Texas, but I'm from Dallas, Texas. I got Dallas, Texas. 214.
Acting like I ain't from Dallas, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I'm from Irving.
Oh, okay. All right. Don't know.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I'm not from here, but I've been here forever, you know.
Right. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. I wanted the reach to kind of coincide. I'm in Cali. I know the licensing restrictions and things of that nature. So I wanted kind of our audience to be able to reach from the different spaces where we can get some reach. So that's dope. And you know, Texas is home. So, you know, we can't really. You know, I can't say that. Even though I love California. So,
well, great.
So before we start wrapping up, of course, we have to talk about the pandemic, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Pandemic effect on mental health was huge, right?
Yes, very huge.
So, I guess we can start by asking: did you start seeing? That's the obvious question. Did you start seeing more people coming to you for your services, you know, during the pandemic? And I think we have Miss Lauren back.
Is she coming back?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Rick Ross is back.
You better leave me alone.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just really think God sent me to where I need to be right when this pandemic happened, because I started my business February. Was that 2020? I went totally on my own. I had already started it in 19, but February 2020, I was totally on my own, and bam, that next month, that's when the pandemic came.
Wow.
Fortunately, my business went crazy. You know, that helped me, but unfortunately, you know, I had a lot of unwell people, as y'all say. So, it definitely grew, no doubt in my mind. And when I tell you, don't nobody want to go to work anymore. Nobody wants to go to work.
Oh, that's clear.
I mean, that's very clear. Some people believe that their job is part of the reason why they are dealing with what they're dealing with. The high stress life, the high anxiety. I know functioning people who are on meds, who make great salaries. They make great money, but they're high functioning because they have to take their meds, they have to take their stuff, and they go into work like everything is normal. And imagine being in your field and then you're dealing, you know, and you're seeing people unwell at work. They're still working. So Ken mentioned that high anxiety disorder from earlier. You see it because it's like, yo, and then if they actually get comfortable to tell you something about themselves, you'll find out, you know, like, oh, I got anxiety, I got depression, I got this. And they'll tell you because they're open. They were kind of taught that a little bit in therapy, I guess, to be open who they're talking to. Mm-hmm. And I honestly believe that people in their jobs, it's drove a lot of them up the wall.
Yeah. I see it. It's real.
Yeah, because I mean, I think during the pandemic, number one, the biggest thing for me was at the beginning the uncertainty of what this disease is bringing to us, what the future may look like. It was kind of it's certainly unprecedented. You know what I'm saying? In our lifetime, we have never seen anything even close to this. So it's that uncertainty that sent everybody into this whirlwind of emotions and uncertainty. And how do I deal? Okay, now I feel like I need to get some help.
Right.
It's a good thing, you know what I'm saying, that they felt like, during this time is the best time to go do that. But, I also knew that, I figured from myself, I figured that, when this started to occur, I was like, people start going to get some therapy now because they definitely need it. They definitely need it. So Lauren, how about you? Did you see an uptick in number of patients and people pursuing your services during the pandemic?
So I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to circle back to that high functioning question before my Wi-Fi died on me. So I was still in group practice when Corona hit. So we transitioned all of our clients into telehealth as a result of that. But as a result of COVID, I'm going to go out on a limb, even though we don't like to say 100, I'm going to say there was 100% commitment to therapy because of COVID compared to pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, you're going to get people canceling here and there, no showing here and there, rescheduling all over the place. As a result of COVID, I've never had so much consistency in practice than I did then. Wow. Every single client kept every single appointment. And I can't remember having a cancellation. I'm sure I probably did, but I can't remember having one because people needed it so much. But the interesting thing is, although it created consistency in private practice and in my income, it actually contributed to my own burnout. And I actually decided to leave private practice at the end of 2020. So it shifted a lot of things for a lot of people, and I was one of those people.
Right, because I can imagine some of us had to work during the pandemic. Keep working.
I was considered an essential worker because my full-time employment is in a residential program. So it's considered a healthcare setting that requires staff 24 hours a day. We have 24-hour shifts. And although I'm not doing the shift work, I'm providing the therapy, and it was still considered essential because of the environment I was in. Right. So that coupled with private practice, the pandemic did not change my work at all. I was still going to my regular full-time job, and then I was still seeing clients in the evening, and it just intensified it. And that's all it really did for me.
I'm glad you said that because I always wondered that too. And we've had people in your field and your profession on some episodes before, and I like to ask that question, like do you go see a therapist? Because it's got to be stuff that you hear that you kind of take on maybe, and you hear, and I mean, how do you, as I like to say, how do you unpack your bag, right? How do you unpack from the stuff that you hear and the stuff that, you know what I'm saying, you come across in your profession?
So I'm not currently seeing my own therapist, but when I have been in private practice or when I have been in environments that were particularly challenging, my peer consultations always really helped me manage that. And the peer consultations are just consulting with my other colleagues and professionals. Early in my career, like postgraduate, I had a supervisor who was supervising me while I was trying to earn my license, and that helped tremendously. And I've had a lot of other supervision and professional consultation. And I've also been very intentional about choosing myself first. So when I decided to leave private practice, some of it was because it was becoming too much. But I also thought that I was going to start my own telehealth practice. Like COVID showed me, okay, you don't need to give a percentage of your money to anybody. You can do this. You can do this on your own. You can do your own telehealth practice. And I actually am going to do a video on it Benji, I think you've seen some of the videos I posted on Facebook.
Yes,
I'm going to post a video about my experience with burnout because I did not realize I was burning out until I left private practice, because the systems I had put in place in order to function with the schedule that I had, once those systems didn't need to be fired up because I was no longer in practice, everything started to shut down.
Right.
And
did you get that feeling of like, I'm not in this? So it's like, I'm a workaholic. So when you're a workaholic, when you feel like, you know what, you don't have to do 9,000 things, you feel like you're not accomplished or something like that. Is that similar?
It wasn't that I didn't feel accomplished. I didn't realize that I was juggling too much, and juggling is not the word. I didn't realize I was stretching myself too thin until I stopped stretching myself too thin. And a lot of people talk about burnout in terms of noticing the symptoms when they're happening and then responding or reacting accordingly. I didn't notice the symptoms. And I had a lot of cognitive work I was doing to maintain these systems. And there were a lot of things I put in place in my life to make me do this. And then the moment I stopped, the moment I eliminated one whole income and one whole job, so that opened up a lot of time for me to sit still and rest, then my body and my brain went, oh, we don't have to use these other systems anymore. Woo, let's shut them down. So all of these things started to change, and I'm going to do a video about it. But what I thought was me just being tired prolonged for like 3-4 months. And I started to realize this is not just tired. Like, I'm fatigued. Something is wrong. Like, I'm not even working 55 hours anymore, and I'm still feeling exhausted. My short-term memory was shot. Again, I was like, I'm not even working 2 jobs. Why can I not remember the thing I was just thinking 5 minutes ago? And there were a whole other host of symptoms that I had that prompted me to do my own like diagnostic impression and kind of say, okay, you meet such and such criteria, but you don't meet the rest of these, so it can't be this thing. But I want to say like 6 months into it. So I left private practice at the end of 2020. The goal was in the first 3 months of 2021, I was going to start my telehealth practice. I just could not seem to make it happen. And I kept pushing it back and pushing it back. And I kept telling my mom and other people, I just need to rest. I'm just taking a sabbatical. I think, I'm just needing to rest. But month after month would pass. And it was around June or July where I said, okay, I'm 6 to 7 months in this year, and I still don't feel like I can get this thing started. I still don't feel like I can do this. And yet I was working 50, 60 hours before. And that's when something clicked in me that said, because you had put all these systems in place to manage this unmanageable thing, and in the moment you removed yourself, then you could feel your body's true response. And I try to compare it to people coming out of addiction sometimes. When you're in active addiction, you oftentimes don't realize what's happening in your body because you're putting dope on top of it and you can't feel it. Like you're not getting the signals you need to experience. So when I stopped working like that, it was like, boom, oh, this is what's really happening inside of me. That had become too much for me to bear. And I chose mental health over income. And it was like the best decision I could make for me personally, because I'm at much peace. Of course, I'm not making nearly as much as I was.
That always comes with it.
But I feel better. And for me, feeling better is always going to trump income.
The other thing.
Yeah, Angel, and I wanted to say this. I wanted to say this about that functional thing you all were talking about, because I have a love-hate relationship with that language, and I have very mixed feelings about functioning this and functioning that. Because on the one hand, when it comes to functional depression, I think it informs people that depression doesn't have to look the way you think it does. Like, you could be managing and living with depressive symptoms, and you think, like I mentioned before, you think you're just being strong and you're just resilient. So it's, on the one hand, very informative and insightful to say you could still have depression and feel like you're functioning. The other side of it that I really struggle with is sometimes people use that word as an excuse to not get help. Because they'll say, well, I'm functioning just fine. It's not a problem for me. I'm not like these other people. I'm not like her. It's not doing this. It's not causing me to take medication, or it's not making me hurt myself. But it's like, okay, but that wasn't what functioning was supposed to do. It was just supposed to make you aware that you can still be struggling with this thing and still be going to work every day. That doesn't mean that you don't have it. So for me, I really challenge a lot of my clients, especially the ones who are in recovery from addiction. I tell them, don't come to me saying you were functioning anything, because if you were functioning, you wouldn't be sitting in front of me right now.
Right.
And so I kind of go back and forth with them being clients about that word and that language. Because again, we're not going to make excuses to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, because that's insanity. And if you want to talk about somebody being crazy and you come in here and you give me insanity language, I might have to ask you about crazy.
Right? Angel, tell us how you unpack this. Is it over brunch with mimosas and wine, or how is it? How is it?
Yeah, at times, yes. So currently, I'm no therapist, but I do a lot of journaling. I love to write.
Right.
So, and I've always been that way. I can always explore my feelings through that medium. I have a lot of supportive friends, family, and not to say that's any excuse for therapy, but everybody don't need therapy. I mean, that's my opinion. Okay. Everybody don't. Can it be great for you? Absolutely. But at this point, I don't. I have a lot of different resources for myself. So that's how I unpack, and I feel great. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And that says a lot to me.
Yeah, it does. That's awesome. Unpacking all of the stuff and doing all of that. I have to say I experienced that too, because I'm a workaholic. It's in my blood. I don't know where it comes from. But when I started to work from home, and I started to realize how less of a hustle and a bustle I have to go through to make things happen, my body started to react really, really, really different. And I was free. It was cool. But I felt exactly what Lauren is talking about. You're not doing the 170 hours every 2 weeks, which I'm not supposed to say that on what you call, but it's going crazy. Just workaholic, entrepreneur, working a job, doing all of these things. And then when you actually get a moment to settle down, relax, that's why I mentioned this earlier. I almost felt like I wasn't doing what I should be doing. And I kind of felt guilty a little bit. And I'm sitting there like, dude, look at where you came from and look at what you've accomplished. The things, because I journal as well, and the things which, I've always done as a kid, but it's one thing my therapist mentioned. Write your thoughts down. Write them down. Write them how you feel and do all of these types of things. And I went back and I looked back at some things that I had wrote down, and I literally had accomplished every last one of those things during the pandemic. And that kind of settled me again. But being that workaholic, you feel like you got to go back and get to work again, because you're always reaching the next goal. So how do you deal with that? Because we're talking about the functioning workaholics or the functioning addict. Talk to us about that a little bit before we get out of here.
Okay. And you mean personally?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I will say that's something that I do struggle with. I'm very goal oriented, and I'm always trying to knock down goals.
Right.
At the same time, different things. And when I was in group practice, it was one of the largest practices out here in the DFW area. We were on the go. I mean, go, go, go. 15-minute appointments. Not only that, we had to go walk to get our patients, which was not close. Bring them back. So it was go, go, go. So when I got out of that, I said to myself, I can't believe, how did I survive in that environment?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I had to sit back like, that's crazy. And so when I find myself now, when I'm go, 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 I think about that. And I'm like, you know what? Let's streamline this better,
Right.
And that's where journaling comes in for me too. Like writing down things that can make my life easier to where I don't get that burnout. Because there was a point where I was about sick of my patients, and I have to say it like that. But
no, tell us how you really feel. We want to know.
I'm trying to help you. Like you calling me the same day to do some paperwork for you is outlandish. Like you're not the only person I'm trying to help. Right. And so I was starting to get angry, but I cut back my work week. You know, I don't work on Fridays, and I don't think I'm going to be working on Mondays no more either. Now, I might not be making as much money, but I'm good. You know,
set those boundaries,
find other
right?
avenues. So I just step back out of myself when I feel like things going too crazy and I'm trying to do too much. Thank God I have the faculties to realize that I do have other options and just stepping back. You know, that's what I do.
I did that. I dig that,
Yeah.
man.
I think
this should be like a 12-part series or something like that.
I think you just brought up something amazing though, and I'm not gonna drag it out because I know we gotta wrap up. But boundaries are huge,
right?
Huge, and I'm just really this year really focusing in on boundaries, having to work from home. You know, I became a supervisor in November. And I had to place boundaries because your employees will call you, will text you outside of work hours, asking you questions. And not only was I working outside of work hours, but now I'm accepting text messages, I'm accepting phone calls, and I had to learn how to disconnect. You know what? This is the end of the day. I'm gonna log off. Whatever's here will be here tomorrow. I gotta roll. So, and I think for a lot of people, that's important that they learn to develop those boundaries with not only work, with people, with family members, with your friends, because sometimes we don't have those boundaries and we allow people to push us to a certain point in which they shouldn't have been able to push us because we should have said, you know, you outside of that, you outside of your boundary, able to affect me like this. So before we get up out of it, can we talk briefly about boundaries and how you can, you know, if it's some advice you can help people in establishing boundaries?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with boundaries at the program where I'm currently providing therapy because a lot of people have miseducation about what a boundary is. A lot of people are working under the impression that boundaries are about making other people do something different. That is not what a boundary is. Boundaries are about how you are going to manage a situation and giving people the opportunity to either respect that or not. So if I have a boundary, let's say about, like you were describing, Ken, just either not calling after a certain time or not texting after a certain time if I'm at home, I can articulate that to my team and I can say, I do not respond to emails after 7 p.m. I will respond to all emails and text messages at least by 10 o'clock in the morning. That's the boundary. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I am not going to respond after 7. I will respond by 10 o'clock. Are people still going to violate that? Yes, they are. But you have to be consistent in order to get people used to it, because the moment you get blurry, well, you're teaching them, oh, okay, well, this isn't really a steadfast boundary. This is, you know, a little shaky. But you're just saying, this is what I'm going to do. And eventually people will become used to that and say, oh, okay, well, Lauren don't answer the phone after 7. Lauren's not checking emails after 7. And they will just know that. And they'll know not to try to overstep that. So we have to be consistent. A lot of people are way too blurry when they set a boundary. A lot of people are too afraid of how other people are going to react and how it's going to make other people feel. And I did a video recently about being able to say no and the different ways you can say no, because saying no is a boundary as well.
Lord have mercy. Try telling my son no.
Sometimes you have to be okay when you're trying to set boundaries. In the beginning, you have to be okay that people are going to feel some kind of way about it, especially if you never had that boundary before. So you have to be okay if people need a moment to adjust. And you can't let that change the boundary you've set, because all that's doing is interrupting your peace. And again, I told y'all, I'm going to choose me first every time.
Yep. And it's just something that I was taught a few years back is you teach people how to treat you. You know,
that's so true.
How to treat you by what you allow. So, you know, for me, I've had to learn how to change up my dynamics because I've always been, as I say on my name on the screen today, the gentle giant, the pushover guy. Oh, Ken, he's gonna say yeah. He's going to say, yeah, he's going to help you. He's going to do this. And I had to just learn to say, you know what? It's hard for me to say no, but I had to learn how to start telling people no. Like I'm not gonna.
I'm still learning, y'all. So y'all pray for me because I don't know how to say no to my son. He's just the greatest little kid in the world, and I don't know how to stop being a giver. Like it's a challenge. So y'all keep a brother lifted.
Get there. I was not born assertive. I had to learn how to be assertive. I had problems saying no too, but now it's not a problem at all.
I just stay away from people. Can I be honest? Like I don't know if that's healthy or not. Y'all can tell me what's up. But listen, I will literally leave my phone at home and go 3 days and spend it on the beach somewhere, do whatever. And then folk don't know where I live at anyway, so I keep them away from me. So I just lock up in my house and just be straight. Now, I was told that could mean you depressed.
What?
That like you kind of distance yourself from people.
That can be a symptom for sure, but I don't know, but it can be a symptom.
A symptom of what?
I just don't like being. I just don't like being around people all the time. Unless I smell barbecue, then I might get happy and excited.
What you said. You said people told you it was a symptom of what?
And so one of my getaways, and this is personal for me, is when I get away from people. Like I can go 2-3 days, week without like saying anything. You know what I mean? Like that's my getaway. I think because I exhaust myself with people because I'm so giving, that's like my thing. So when I want to get away, like it's in my place, it's out somewhere for a few days, no phone, no nothing. And that's just my getaway. Like that's how I think of me. Like, I don't want to have to explain to you why I took off for 3 days. You get what I'm saying? Like I needed it. I felt I needed it. But I don't know if that's like, I was told that you might be depressed. That they didn't say I was.
Like, no, you want to get away.
Right.
But I was more so saying isolation can be a symptom of depression.
Right.
But what you're saying does not seem like it, you know.
Yeah, I just like to get away from people. I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, no. It doesn't.
What made you go? That brother gone.
Yeah.
I ain't heard from him in 2-3 days.
All right. Well,
you know, there's a lot of energy in human interaction, and it can be exhausting for some of us, and it can deplete us, and you need to get recharged and rejuvenated, especially doing the work that Angel and I do. Even though we are not in human resources, I always joke with my colleagues and I say we are resourcing humans all day, every day. And it's just a lot. It's a lot mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I absolutely get that need to get away from humans kind of thing.
Yes, Lord. And I'll do it in a minute too.
All right. Well, I think we've given the audience a lot of good information today. And as I said at the beginning of the show, these ladies get paid money for what they do.
Go spend your money.
We're not going to hold them any longer. But what we're going to do is allow these ladies to give you their information so you can contact them, follow them on social media, reach out, because we know somebody out there needs help. And if you need help, we got 2 young ladies right here that can help you, or they can help steer you in a direction where you can find somebody to help you, because that's the most important thing, is that you get the help, not who the help comes from. Is you need the help, period.
Right.
So that's what we're here for. So ladies, before we get up out of here, we usually give you an opportunity to give the audience something inspirational, motivational before you leave, and give them your information so they can find you. Miss Adams?
Yes. So I just want to say to everybody that stormy days don't last always. Okay. So just keep putting one foot in front of the other. If you want to reach out to me for any type of diagnosis of mental health, evaluation, medication, you can go to premiermentalwellness.com. You can go to my IG at angel_bonafide. I am not in a box. Okay. I'm also a model. So I'm just not a mental health professional. I do other things.
Yeah.
So go to my page.
The page is fire. The page is fire.
Whatever.
The page is fire.
So with that being said, if you need me, I'm here. If you're in Texas.
Yes.
Put that out there.
Cool. Well, no, it don't matter where you at. You can follow that page, especially
yes. I found her on Instagram. So Lord.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Praise God.
But that's the good thing about social media, you know. So.
Right. Awesome.
All right, Miss Lauren.
I would say, I guess the motivational or aspirational words that I want to share. Number one, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And remember, to date, you have survived 100% of your worst days. So you can definitely take on tomorrow. As far as how to reach me, you all heard me say earlier in the podcast, this social media thing is still not really my niche. I'm an old lady. But you can.
Come on now, Rick Ross. Don't be telling us you old.
No, look, I am going to be 40 in September. And I am
old.
We're older than you.
No, I believe you. I know. I wasn't going to even ask. I knew. I could feel it. I felt the ancestor energy. But
she saw this. That's the ancestor energy right here.
I'll just leave it like this. I might be the oldest on the entire platform. I'll accept that, and it's okay.
No, you definitely are.
Might be.
It's all right. It's all right. You ain't gotta rub it in.
I told Benji my Instagram is not professional, so I'm not going to share my Instagram only because that's just for me. That's my social platform. But you can find me on TikTok. I have tried to get into TikTok, and on TikTok, I believe my name is Therapy Culture. So if you see Therapy Culture, see, Angel, I don't even remember what I logged in as, but I think it's Therapy Culture, and the reason it's Therapy Culture is because I also have a podcast. So if you would like to listen, you can find me on Anchor or Spotify at Therapy for the Culture. So it's Therapy, the number 4 culture. And the little thumbnail is essentially 2 black heads overlapping on an orange background. And my podcast is a series review that kind of takes a clinical perspective on certain characters in television and media and just kind of talks about how we would address these issues in a clinical or therapeutic relationship. So again, you can find me at Therapy for the Culture on Anchor or Spotify, and on TikTok at Therapy Culture. And it's the same thumbnail for both platforms.
Send us those links. We would love to share them.
Send us those links, and we'll post them on our platforms so people can follow you all and people can find you, because they definitely need the help. And I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna say they. I'm gonna say we definitely need the help. So we appreciate y'all for coming on today. We appreciate y'all spending y'all time. It's been an amazing experience. We've had a ton of comments. So if you all get an opportunity, we couldn't put them up on the screen today like we usually would because the conversation was just flowing so much. But if you all would like to, there are comments on these videos. If you want to go out to YouTube or Facebook and respond to some of the comments, the people have loved every bit of it. They loved your perspectives. They loved your honesty, and we appreciate your time again. So, hey, whatever we can do for you, you have a friend in us.
Yes.
Guys.
So this was awesome. I told you it should be a 12-part series. So.
It should.
Hey, well, if our audience knows that we don't have any shame in our game, we will ask you to come back and allow you to tell us no, because we know now that you know how to say no, but that's not going to stop us from asking, because we're definitely going to ask. We like to have, people who have shown that they can come on and deliver information. And we like to ask people back in a different light. We might be talking about a totally different subject, but we know that you all can manage that. So, we'll definitely be bugging y'all for some more appearances. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Can't wait to try that wine. I go get it on Thursday.
Yeah, and I gotta get Lauren hers. I know
you haven't shipped mine to me yet.
I ain't gonna no.
Stutter.
I will. My therapist taught me, Benji, just say what you got. No, I didn't. My bad. I'm sorry. I will get that out to you today. Those of you who do know, guests on the Fiyah Session podcast always get represented by my wine from my store. So I always ship those out. And so I will make sure you get yours. I will prepare the order today.
Thank you.
I I got you.
All right. Benji Banks, the man, the brand. Talk to the people before we get up out of here.
This was needed. I have been wanting to have this, not even just for, everyone, me personally, myself, just in the simple fact this year dealing with some of the stuff that I believe that I need to overcome as I go into the next level of life. I believe, I'm being taken out of survival mode, and I'm finally getting over to that other side to where those tactics aren't working anymore. Right. So we're in a space now where it's like, you got to think different. You got to move different. You got to act different. You got to respond different. So that's the space where I'm in. So I believe this was very impactful. You guys impacted me for sure. And I want to first say thank you guys for that. But during this whole thing, the conversation that came up in my head, or the song was, I'm so glad trouble don't last always. So weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So that's been sticking with me the entire time we were hearing this. So I have a saying that I use. It's one of my hashtags. It's called lift your hands. Anytime we say something that's very, very, very credible, we always tell people to lift their hands, because that's where your surrender is. So that's what we do. See, look at it. Lauren got her hands lifted. See, Angel got look at you. I'm gonna get all y'all to lift your hands.
That's like in the church.
But you know me, you can find me on IG, BRB4701 on the screen right there. Or you can find me on Facebook, Benji Banks. I'm on those two platforms. You'll also probably be getting an invite to my new group called Poor Choices. So that's what we're looking forward to. So, and it's about wine. So you won't have to go through my entire site and look for all of these different wine selections. I'm going to put them out there so you can see them. So, and it's going to be called Poor Choices. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And so our live wine tastings and all of that stuff is coming up. So just a lot going on. We're getting out of survival mode and getting into that mode where we're walking into our destiny. So I believe that. So,
wow, Poor Choices. I'm feeling that, Benji.
I love it.
That's dope. That's very.
And this drink I made. Oh, you got to go to my IG and look at it.
That's very.
It's going to be on the site too. So that's.
And I'm assuming that's a play on words. So it's spelled POUR. Choices.
Yes, it is. I'm glad you caught that. I'm glad you caught that.
That's dope. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you like that. We're creating the whole brand. Benji is the name, but we're creating the whole brand for myself. So that's what we're into.
That's dope. Well, y'all already know y'all can find me at Big Ken's Comedy on IG, Big Ken's Comedy on Twitter, Big Ken's Comedy on Facebook. The Fire Session podcast is on all social media platforms. Just search Fire Session. Y'all know we bring you something dope every week, guests, topics, everything. But before we close out, I'm gonna have a transparent moment with y'all. Your boy been struggling, right? This past year has been hard, super hard for me. I know a lot of people, I'm one of those people that they were talking about earlier who wear the mask, basically, where, some things have been going on. It hasn't been anything that I would consider disastrous, but it's just a bunch of transition in my life. And I just been bearing the weight of it, So I need some help. So, I laugh when I say it, but I know I need it. So for anybody else out there who's in the position that I'm in, get that help, because you know what? I've been saying I'm going to get that help. I've been saying I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it seriously, because I have to get out of that realm of, just my backpack has been loaded up and it's getting really heavy and I need to unpack it. And I know I'm an advocate for that. And I talk to people about it all the time, but guess what? I haven't been doing it myself. So it's a transparent moment. We all go through those things. I'm trying to get to that point where I'm out of that struggle, and I'm going from surviving to thriving. So, we all go through it. Big Ken ain't immune to it. So, we all works in progress. So we all going to get that help. But again, thank you for the ladies for coming on today.
Yeah.
Grateful. I am very grateful. I gleaned a lot from the conversation and from the information. And listen, I got so much going on. I might be in touch with both of them just to, just to get the help that's necessary. But in all honesty, I appreciate you all again, because this this conversation that we had today is only the tip of the iceberg, as they say.
Yeah.
For what needs to be, you know, across the whole gambit in our communities. So thank you again. We appreciate you all coming on tonight. We appreciate the audience for tuning in. We appreciate all the great comments. Y'all already know, go to the YouTube page, like and subscribe. It's growing, it's growing, it's growing. And we're going to get these messages out to the people that need to hear it. And we appreciate you all support. So we'll see you all next week on another great episode of the Fiyah Session Podcast. Y'all already know where to find us. Peace.
Stay tipsy.
Follow us on all social media platforms. Just search Fiyah Session Podcast.